Characteristic behavior. You'll have to really use your pen here. Under good vigor for activity, they're very active. Poor vigor, they're inactive. Some of this stuff will just be real self-explanatory. But attitude will be alert. Poor vigor, it's going to be drowsy. The voice, they'll be crowing, cackling, singing. You know, poor vigor, that bird will be quiet. Sex interest will, on good vigor, they'll be brave. They'll be gallant. They'll, the poor vigor will have a lack of interest. Okay, a male with poor vigor. If you go back to that survey or that little university test there at Cornell, is birds that are kind of more docile and not sexually interested in females. You're not going to have. Remember the whole fertility, hatchability, livability. You're not going to have fertility. Okay. Appetite. They'll eat well when they have vigor, and they'll have a full crop. Poor vigor, they eats little. Roosting, this is a great one. Good vigor, they're up early and retire late. Watch your birds who come off the roost first. Pat's laughing over there because she's.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. Yeah, those, they go to bed early. It's like, man, it's going to be dark in a couple hours, but, I'm heading in. And then everybody's out, and you go look, and you're like, what are you doing here? It's just like, hey, I'm just kind of taking it easy here, all right? That is a huge indicator of vigor for you, males and females alike. Okay? Up early, retire late, poor vigor, spending too much time on the perch, all right? Their body characteristics. Good vigor, broad and round. Poor vigor, going to be long, narrow, and flat. The back, broad and flat. Maybe poor vigor would be like narrow and wedged shaped. The beak, short, heavy, and curved. You know how important a beak is? Very, very important for how much a bird can eat. Okay? A crow head on a chicken is where the beak is literally like a crow. Alright? I need a beak. That's how it can't eat very much. It needs a hook. I even look at that. Very important you learn to look at the beak of turkeys and chickens. Alright? Beak's very, very important part of how much bird, Pat gave me the incredible privilege of destroying a bird that she probably should have destroyed many weeks ago. Okay? It had the top of the beak went like that, okay? That bird, she goes, it's always around the feeder. I said, well, you try and eat with that thing. Okay? Tells you the significance of the beak when the bird, and of course I picked that bird up and it was alive. Okay? Great lesson for both of us, or for all of us, to learn the importance of that beak. What are we on? Beak, poor vigor, long, thin, and flat. The comb of good vigor will be large, bright red, and warm. Poor vigor, it's like small, pale, could be purplish looking. The tail of a bird with good vigor is going to be upright. Poor vigor will be drooping. Okay, now on vigor, remember the head gives a very good indication of the health of the bird. And the plumage of vigorous birds is close, and feathers are well kept. This is when they're young. Glossy, unbroken, vigorous birds generally molt late and quickly. Okay? Questions about vigor? I'm only giving you 3 here, so you don't get massively confused. Second quality is the APA standard characteristics. Individuals should be selected that are free from general disqualifications. Okay, there's 3 general disqualifications that are listed in the standard. You don't need to write these down, but one of them is called, any disease. Okay, should go bye-bye. So we're talking about APA standard characteristics. Any disease, any bird with deformities. I saw a leg the other day at a farm that went about like the beak, but it was the leg. I'm like, okay, you need to be destroying this bird way, way, way early on. Okay? I would argue that you go, well, I'm kind of hoping maybe I can take the beak and let it grow better and take the leg up. Now, Aaron is the exception. He's done a few leg surgeries, and Todd's like, look at that chicken walk. Pretty normal, isn't it? Aaron did some doctor, wasn't that your place? So, general disqualifications, okay, is one of the other general disqualifications. Is if it's supposed to have a single comb and it has a P comb, guess what? Bye-bye. Okay, and then or if it lacks breed characteristic. For an example, that Rhode Island Red that I showed you. Whenever you look at a Rhode Island Red, you're looking for a brick type. The male tail should be 20-degree angle. The female should be 10 degrees. If you have a tail that's at 50 degrees in that Rhode Island Red, it's part of the description of the breed. Okay? A lot of times I'm disqualifying birds and say it lacks breed characteristic. You put Rhode Island, you entered it as a Rhode Island Red, and the only reason you call it Rhode Island Red is because it's red, but it has nothing, it doesn't look at all like a Rhode Island Red type. Okay? So that's what we mean by standard. You're going by the standard. Let me just tell you this. I used to not be as straightforward about this. Here's how I can tell if you're a breeder. Number one, you gotta love to hang out with the birds. Okay, you gotta. It's just like, and part of the love for them, take the dark Cornish and the standard and go, man, I love the dark Cornish. I want to get him back into the meat, to the marketplace. I'm going out to my Cornish and I'm reading, okay, dark Cornish. It says the head. I'm looking out, I'm out with my birds. I got my chicken Bible. The head, moderately large, short, deep, broad, indicating great vigor. The skull should be flat, broader at the front than at the rear, projecting over the eyes. Okay, so I read this, I look at my Cornish. I read about the neck, I look at my Cornish. The neck, it should be medium in length, carried erect and arched, just like that. So I take my standard out and look at my Buckeyes and go, man, I love the Buckeyes. What's the standard say? This is what the bird should look like. This is what Nettie Metcalf had in mind when she developed it in the early 1900s. Okay? So in the standard, you have tail development and angles, earlobe color and shape, eye and shank color, back development and breast, feather quality, weight, etc., etc. Now, way back a couple years ago, somebody goes, what's the big deal about the standard? Why does it matter? A couple little bullet points. Why the standard perfection matters. First of all, Francis from Green Bay, Wisconsin said, standard type is production type. Standard, listen to this, fill in the blank, was written when these birds were used commercially. Pre-1950, when the standard or the industrial turkey and the Cornish cross didn't exist, it was the commercial poultry guys who said, this is what a Rhode Island Red should look like. Instead, we listen to the voices that know nothing about breeding a Rhode Island Red, and well, here's one, and the hatchery sends you this chaos. Okay? The breeders who raised hundreds and hundreds of White Plymouth Rocks said this is what they should look like. The Australorps, the Buff Orpingtons, all of those. Okay? So it was written when the birds were used commercially. Also, bottom of the page, each breed was designed for a specific purpose. Very, very important to understand that. You don't go, hey, I'm going to raise white leghorns for meat. The standard tells us every little description. This is what a leghorn was bred for. This is what a Plymouth Rock was bred for. This is how the Delaware came to be. Okay, on the next page, the top breeders of each breed were consulted for the standard of perfection. Now let me ask you this. If Jennifer raised black Australorps for 30 years and Pat had them for 6 months, who do you think should have the most input on the standard? Okay? That's the way it is. It's very, very important. The preservation of the American Poultry Association and the standard of perfection is huge. It's really, really big. The most productive size and shape are chosen for their purpose. Breeds can be relied upon to consistently produce a product within a system in an efficient manner. When you breed a Plymouth Rock male and a Plymouth Rock female, amazing, you get a Plymouth Rock progeny. All right? When you breed a Freedom Ranger to a Freedom Ranger, if it can kind of sort of reproduce, you end up with something you go, I could have never predicted that. Every breeder should have his or her own copy of a standard. Okay? The third quality is production. Now this is big. Production characteristics includes meat and eggs. Now I cover this, we're doing a coaching clinic that's 2 days, October 1st and 2nd in Salisbury. And we take this much deeper. We could spend 2 days on just this. And that needs to just be with people who are living and breeding, okay? But let me just hit on it. So, rate of growth on the meat qualities, we're talking rate of growth. So we're weighing them at 8 weeks and 16 weeks. Okay? That's what we mean by tracking for meat production. I also put the live weight and the dressed weight. For those of you who, and I probably should put this into the notes, on average, a chicken about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of live weight becomes feathers and guts. So basically, I say if I have a 7-pound bird, I just plan it's going to dress out about 5 pounds. Turkeys, 4 pounds of feathers and guts. It's a lot, huh? So a 28-pound bird will probably dress out about 24 pounds. Okay? So, do not process your Delawares when they are 3 pounds live weight. I don't think you'll sell very many. Okay? No way a pound. So you got to kind of keep a pulse on it. All right? And then in the dress weight. Now, let me tell you something else on this. And I am giving you a bunch of brand new stuff that all of our breeders are bringing back. And I get to tap into the deep well of what everyone else is learning. Okay? If Steve is raising Cornish cross, you get a 4-pound bird at how many weeks? 10 weeks. Okay. 4 pounds at 10 weeks. If Sharon is getting a Delaware to 4 pounds at 17 weeks, let's talk about the difference. What comes to mind when you look at those time differences? Feed is huge. Okay? What else?
No way to keep up with the Cornish cross grower. I mean, if you're the heritage grower, you're 7 weeks behind every...
Okay. You're behind.
You also have to, for us, that means we have to manage them on pasture for 7 weeks.
Absolutely. That's totally legitimate. Okay?
Going out there feeding them every day. They get that fence every day. They get that house for that whole year.
Yeah. The two biggest things that you address with this is time and feed, and they both involve money. So, you have to figure this out in the marketing piece. If this Delaware, we still want slow growth. And we're selling, this is a huge marketing piece, is the slow growth. But let me tell you something. When Sharon says, Jim, 4 pounds, I can't even get my Delawares to 4 pounds in 17 weeks. Some of our guys, it's taking 20, 22. I'm like, you can't make any money adding even 3 weeks on. Plus, so we have this huge uphill battle with these heritage birds. So it's critical that Sharon learns how the only way you get, if this 4-pound bird is taking 22 weeks instead of 17, it's all about genetics. Secondly, it involves a feeding program. But you can do all kinds of feeding program changes. If the bird is not growing at the proper rate, she's going to say, I'm done. Give me a Freedom Ranger. I'm going back to Cornish cross. I'm backsliding. Do you see some of the issues we face here? So breeding for production qualities. Let me tell you something. Ideal hatchery that sold 6 million chicks doesn't care if your Delaware reaches 4 pounds in 17 weeks. They're just moving chicks out the door. And so until we have breeders who go, okay, this is a huge, huge dilemma. If we're going to get the Delaware back to what it was in 1950, we've got work to do. Okay? Now, if you think, and this has happened over and over and over, that you get 100 Buckeyes, you hire me to coach you, you join our mentoring program, and I mentor you, and in a year you go, I can't make money on this. I go, I was not clear in warning you that we have an uphill battle, we got work to do. Okay? Now, that's on the meat side. Now on the egg quality side, okay? I put their egg production qualities, molting, amount of eggs laid per year. Okay, somebody referred to it out of the fence. Okay? I want to be able to ask Jennifer, what's the average black Australorp lay a year? Okay? She should be, historically, in good production, a black Australorp should be about 240 to 260 eggs a year. There's a book listed in my top 10 called The 300 Eggers. It's a study about a leghorn flock up in Washington State. It's awesome. And who doesn't? A leghorn that's true to breed. 300 eggs a year sound really good. All right. And so, but the only way Jennifer can, there's a couple things that she can do to track the egg production. But the ideal way, I'll throw this out to you, you're going to go, that won't work in my house. All right? The ideal way is what we call trap nesting. It's all over the history book. Trap nesting, Jennifer has Australorp number 84. She goes into the nest. Boom, door closes behind. She lays her egg. She's used to the door closing. It happens all the time. All right? She's like, well, okay, privacy. She lays an egg. She turns around. She can't get out. She can't get out until Jennifer comes, opens it up, and goes, leg number, what do I call it, 84? 84. She has an egg production chart. Number 84. It's on a calendar. She laid today. Boom, she goes out. Those nesting boxes have to be checked on the minimum of every 2 hours. My work in Western Piedmont because you got lovely servants all over the place. Okay? All right? Unless you're a full-time farmer and you work as a family or whatever, you can't really do trap nesting. But let me tell you, with the Buckeyes, they are terrible in production. We've got work to do with them Buckeyes. They're a great meat carcass right now. We put, out of these two, meat qualities and egg qualities, we've done a great job of creating a carcass out of a Buckeye. All right? But as Cal Larson says, the old poultry vet from Virginia Tech, guess what? If they don't lay eggs, how are you going to multiply them? You better find girls that produce eggs. How do we do that? And you don't do it by go ahead, just throw my birds out there. And she's laying those. All right? You got to figure out a system. All right? So, vigor, APA standard qualities, production qualities. That's it. Everything falls under one of those three. Okay? And so, most important step to getting started is high quality breeding stock.